Thousands of people died, cities burned to the ground. Armies clashed for years, and it all started because of a bucket. This sounds like a joke, doesn't it? But in medieval Italy, this was deadly serious. By the end of this video, you all understand how something so seemingly trivial could spark one of the most pointless and fascinating wars in all of human history. Let's set the scene. Travel back with me to the early 1300s. Italy, as we know it today, didn't exist. Instead, the peninsula was a chaotic patchwork of powerful independent city-states, all vying for dominance. Think of it like a massive, high-stakes turf war. And in the heart of this turmoil were two cities with a serious grudge, Bologna and Modena. These weren't just neighbors who occasionally disagreed. They were bitter, sworn enemies. For generations, they had been locked in a rivalry fueled by deep-seated political divisions. At the time, Italy was split between two major factions. You had the Guelphs, who supported the Pope, and the Ghibellines, who backed the Holy Roman Emperor. It was a classic power struggle that tore communities and even families apart. Bologna was a staunchly Guelph city, fiercely loyal to the papacy. Modena, just a short ride away, was a proud Ghibelline stronghold, championing the emperor. This fundamental political difference was the gunpowder keg sitting between them. Every border dispute, every trade disagreement, every insult just added more powder. They hated each other's politics, they coveted each other's power, and their pride wouldn't let them forget a single slight. All it took was one single spark to ignite the whole thing. And that spark turned out to be one of the most absurd objects imaginable. So picture this. It's the year 1325. Under the cover of night, a small group of soldiers from Modena decides to launch a daring raid into the heart of enemy territory, the city of Bologna. Now, what do you imagine they were after? Gold from the city treasury? Secret military plans? Perhaps a valuable political hostage? No. They snuck past the city guards, made their way to the main city square, and stole a wooden bucket from a public well, an old oak bucket. To the Modenese soldiers, this was the ultimate prank. It was a gesture of supreme mockery, a way to show the Bolognese that they could march right into their city and take whatever they wanted, even something as worthless as a bucket. It was a symbolic act of humiliation, a way to laugh in their enemy's face. They probably thought it was hilarious. They paraded it back to Modena as a trophy of their audacity. But to the citizens of Bologna, this was no laughing matter. This was a profound public insult. It was a slap in the face. Their honor had been violated. The theft wasn't about the value of the bucket. It was about the principle. They were furious. The city government of Bologna immediately sent a formal demand to Modena. Return our bucket. Now, Modena's response? Essentially, no. And they probably had a good laugh about it, too. They refused to give it back. Bologna's honor was on the line, and Modena's pride wouldn't let them concede. The stage was set for absolute madness. What happened next is almost unbelievable. Bologna, enraged by the refusal, decided to escalate things dramatically. They declared war on Modena. This wasn't just a threat. They meant business. The city of Bologna, a major power in the region, raised a colossal army. Sources say over 30,000 infantry and 2,000 cavalry answered the call to arms, all to avenge the theft of a single bucket. Can you imagine the recruitment speech? They took our bucket. To arms. Modena, though smaller, was not about to back down. They rallied their own forces, mustering around 5,000 infantry and 2,000 cavalry, a significantly smaller army, but one filled with Ghibelline pride and a determination to defend their trophy. The two armies marched towards each other, and on November 15, 1325, they clashed near the small village of Zappolino. What should have been a minor border skirmish exploded into a full-blown, horrific battle. Despite being outnumbered more than 4-1, the Modenese forces were better led and more disciplined. They executed a brilliant tactical charge that broke the Bolognese lines. The battle, which lasted only a couple of hours, turned into a complete massacre. The Bolognese army panicked and fled, with the Modenese cavalry chasing them all the way back to the gates of Bologna. The aftermath was brutal. Thousands of men lay dead on the field. In the pursuit, the Modenese army looted and burned everything in its path. Farms were destroyed, castles were sacked, and homes were set ablaze. Families were shattered, lives were ruined, and a deep scar of hatred was carved even deeper between the two cities. And it was all triggered by a wooden bucket. So, who won? In the Battle of Zappolino, Modena achieved stunning victory against overwhelming odds. And what about the bucket, the very object that started this whole insane conflict? Did they give it back as a gesture of peace? Of course not. They kept it. But they didn't just hide it away in a dusty storeroom. They did the exact opposite. They put the bucket on glorious public display. They hung it from the bell tower of their main cathedral, the Tor della Ghirlandina, for everyone to see. It became Modena's most prized possession, a permanent symbol of their victory and Bologna's humiliation. It was the ultimate medieval taunt, a constant reminder hanging over their rivals' heads. And here is the most incredible part of this story. That very same bucket still exists today. After centuries, it was moved from the tower to the city hall, the Palazzo Comunale, for preservation. If you visit Modena, you can go and see it, protected in a glass case. It's a simple, unassuming wooden bucket, but it's also a relic of one of the most ridiculous, disproportionate, and frankly, stupid wars ever fought. A silent witness to the thousands who died for it. But here's the real truth we need to unpack. The War of the Bucket wasn't really about a bucket. That's the twist. The bucket was just the excuse, the final straw that broke the camel's back. The real war was about everything that had been simmering for decades. Pride, power, politics, and pure, uncut human ego. Think about it. These two cities were already primed for conflict. They were from opposing political factions, constantly competing for territory and influence. Their leaders and citizens were raised to despise one another. When Modena stole a bucket, it was an insult. But when Bologna demanded it back, and Modena refused, it became a standoff. Neither side could back down without losing face. Their pride was more valuable than the lives of their soldiers. The bucket simply became the symbol of that pride. It was a catalyst that allowed all that pent-up hatred and rivalry to finally explode into open warfare. History is littered with stories just like this. Small, seemingly insignificant triggers that lead to massive, devastating consequences. Think of the assassination of an archduke that ignited World War I, or a dispute over trade that launched the Opium Wars. Humans have a tendency to let ego and pride escalate situations far beyond the point of reason. We draw lines in the sand over trivial matters, and then refuse to be the one to step back. The War of the Bucket is just a particularly absurd and memorable example of a pattern that we see again and again, and it seems we never really change. So now, after hearing this insane story, I have to ask you a question. If a simple wooden bucket could start a full-scale war that killed thousands of people in the 14th century, what seemingly stupid, trivial thing do you think could start one today? A meme? A tweet from a world leader? A dispute over a TikTok trend? Because if history teaches us anything, it has that the reasons we go to war are often far dumber than we like to admit. And perhaps we haven't learned a thing. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching.